So I've just beaten Blacksmith Wukong, and I'm going to share with you 3 separate builds that I think you definitely need to try. This is an incredibly fun game with so many different playstyles to choose from, and I'm also going to show you the build that I used to defeat the very last boss. So with that being said, stay tuned, let's go ahead and jump right into the video. Now as far as the actual build goes, for what I used to defeat the very last boss of the game, a lot of this is going to be standard because you get it at the end of the game, but we are going to go over the relic choice I used, as well as all of my self-advance spells and where I put all of my abilities. So let's go ahead and look at self-advance. First and foremost, we have the first half of stamina unlocked. We're going to focus on at least having composure to get those extra light attack combos going after our dodge. Then for martial arts, I chose to go all the way down the right side to get mobile spin in order for us to get as many focus points as fast as humanly possible. Now when it comes to survival, I focus on using stamina, health, as well as anything that would give me higher critical hit chance, higher critical hit damage, as well as overall higher attack. Everything else I have not touched because it wasn't necessary for what I'm turning this build into. Now when it comes to your staff stances, I pretty much use smash stance and pillar stance the entire time. I didn't go all the way down to the bottom of pillar stance because I didn't feel like it was necessary. I don't really like churning gale as a whole. I just really like the massive heavy attack you get when you stand on the top of your staff and slam it down to the ground. And when it comes to smash stance, I had pretty much everything else unlocked just so we could get our final focus point, as well as being able to parry with vantage point and using Skyfall Strike to get an extra massive damage attack on the enemy. Now when it comes to our mysticism, we are going to be using Spellbinder to get as much damage as humanly possible. This was absolutely key, especially at the very last boss, considering he abuses you like absolute crazy. So it was really important to get as much damage out of Spellbinder as possible and unlock that entire tree. Now when moving into our relics, under Craving Eyes, I had Keen Insight, which is going to considerably increase our critical hit damage. This is super important, especially when playing a Spellbinder build, so you can get as much crit damage as possible. For our second slot, we have Whistling Wind, which is going to temporarily increase attack after a perfect dodge. Super important, especially because we're going to be dodging a ton. For slot number 3, I have Hold Breath, which is going to moderately extend the dodge invincibility duration. This is super helpful against bosses. Anytime you get that invincibility window to be a little bit longer, it's going to help your overall longevity in this game. For our next slot, we're going to be using Tongue of the Connoisseur. Each equipped soak slightly increases the health recovery of the drink. Anytime you're getting more healing from your drink, it's always going to work out well for you. And lastly, we are going to be using Everlasting Vitality, which is going to considerably increase our maximum health. Obviously, having more health is going to mean you stay alive longer in this game. Now, when it comes to our equipment, we're only going to look at a few of these items. First off, for our staff, we're using the Jingu Bang. Obviously, it's going to do the most attack, give you the most critical hit damage, and it goes really well with the armor set we're using, giving us a 4th focus point and increasing our critical hit chance. Now, for the armor I'm wearing, everything is going to be the Heaven's Equal set, which is going to give us critical hit chance when everything is equipped. Not to mention, every single piece of this armor is going to give us some kind of stamina, critical hit chance, or defense buff in some regard, which is super nice for us. And you don't have to worry about the fan or this turtle treasure, as we're not going to be using them because Spellbinder cancels all that out. Now when it comes to our Cuirass, we are using 3 that go very well together. First off, I'm using the Golden Sun Crow. This is going to slightly increase my damage bonus. For our second Cuirass slot, we are using the Back Scratcher, which is going to increase our maximum stamina considerably. This goes very well with our Spellbinder spell. And for our third Cuirass slot, we are using the Jade Moon Rabbit, which is going to increase our damage reduction, giving us a 3% damage reduction, and when combined with the Golden Sun Crow, that's going to give us a 3% damage boost. Now as far as our gourd, I'm using the Supreme Gourd, which is going to give us 10 charges, and each sip is going to recover 30% of our maximum health, considerably increasing damage executed by the next attack. Super important. Now when it comes to what's in our actual drink, we are using the Long Bomb, which is going to give each sip 30% maximum health and considerably increase your damage executed by your next attack, which we already went over. And for what's inside of the soaks, we have the Laurel Buds, Celestial Lotus Seeds, Undying Vine, and Tender Jade Lotus. All of these are going to increase damage reduction, defense, stamina, and stamina recovery rate, as well as health, and it's overall a solid choice when looking for some longevity and some quality of life with within Black Myth Wukong. Now for this next build, it's the build that I used for the middle to end game, and it performs incredibly well. It's going to focus on using Pluck of Many, getting as much duration for our clones as humanly possible, as well as focusing on light attacks in order to build up those combo points fast. For your stamina, martial arts, and survival, everything is pretty much the same, except I've moved a few things around in survival. Instead of going all the way down to surging momentum, I instead moved into increasing maximum mana because Pluck of Many is a very hefty spell. As far as your martial arts, everything is pretty much the exact same, and then I just put a few extra points into stamina for that extra focus gained into perfect dodge. As far as staff stances go, we are going to be using Smash Stance in Pillar Stance, but Smash Stance is definitely the one you're going to want to stick with because all the light attack combos that we're going to be doing are going to be emphasized through Smash Stance. When it comes to mysticism, like I said, we're not using anything there, but we are going to be using Pluck of Many. Everything here is going to be upgraded all the way down to the bottom. In this way, your duplicates are going to be able to use Immobilize, Ring of Fire, and Rock Solid. For my staff, I'm using the Golden Long Staff. Even though this is going to increase the damage dealt by Pillar Stance moves, it still is an excellent staff for the mid to end game, and you're not going to suffer too much from using Smash Stance. When it comes to our gear, like I said, everything is going to focus on boosting the duplicates' damage and duration being on the field. Now for our armor, we're going to be using the Atre set. It's going to be giving our duplicates and decoys considerable damage reduction, which is phenomenal, and our gloves are also going to give us some increased critical hit chance for a short duration after consuming a focus point. The boots don't really do anything, but they go with the set and they give us decent defense, which is why we're using these. This is also exactly what you're going to have in mid-game, and it was really beneficial to me as I was going through Black Myth Wukong. Now when it comes to our vessels, I'm using the Wind Tamer. Like I said, this is a great mid-game vessel, allowing you to stagger some bosses as well as get up close and do a ton of damage to them while getting some slight increased damage reduction. For our spirit, this one actually does matter for the build. This spirit, the Old Ginseng Guai, is going to moderately increase maximum health of summoned minions. This is going to include all of your different duplicates, keeping them on the battlefield for longer, giving them more health. Now when it comes to our Kuros, all three of these are great, but I'm using the Amber Prayer Beads, which is going to moderately increase the speed of building up focus points. Obviously, the faster we can build those up, the faster we can get those big attacks off. For our second Kuros, we're using the Tiger Tally, which is going to increase our attack for a short duration after the successful light attack combo. And for our third Kuros, it's going to be the Agate Jar, which is going to moderately increase your defense. More defense is never bad. Now as for your drink goes, use whatever you have at mid-game that's the best for you. Everything that I showed you in the first build has carried over into the second build. I have found that all of those are great for this particular build, but if you don't have that drink yet, that's okay. Mid-game is only going to offer you a few options, so go with the best drink that's offered to you. Now for our relics, because we're focusing extra hard on light attacks, we have the Opportune Watcher, which is going to increase our focus based on consecutive successful light attacks, which is super helpful. We're also going to be using the Whistling Wind, which is going to increase our attack after a perfect dodge. Then we're using Lingering Aroma, which is going to grant moderate damage bonus for a short time after casting a spell. For our last two, we have Spread the Word, which Immobilize is going to affect everyone around you. And we also have Everlasting Vitality, which is once again going to increase our health. Now for this next and last build of the video, we are going to be focusing on poison. I love poison builds in almost every single game that I have done, and this game is no exception. Poison is incredibly fun and has the ability to spike your damage as well as give your enemy a damage over time debuff, so it's always a fun time to use. For your self-advance, when it comes to your stamina, martial arts, and survival, everything is the exact same as the last build. I find that typically once you have enough to level these up, they can stay exactly how they are. For your staff stances, we are using Smash Stance for the majority of this particular build. I have some Pillar Stance in there just because I like the variety every now and again. I will make a Thrust Stance build later on, so definitely stay tuned for that. But when it comes to our mysticism, we have Immobilize almost all the way leveled up. I love Immobilize. It definitely makes it so that you can build up focus points incredibly fast, and anytime you need a break and can stop the enemy, this is definitely what you want to use. And when it comes to our transformations, we're actually going to be using Filthy Malice. Each talent level with this is going to slightly increase poison damage, which since this is a poison build, we definitely want that transformation. And when it comes to our relics, everything is the exact same as it was in the previous build. Now, as far as our equipment goes, our staff is going to be the Visionary Centipede staff. This is going to allow any successful hit with a charged heavy attack. Each focus point costs slightly recover your health if the enemy is in a poison state. Considering you are also going to be in a poison state yourself to spike your damage, anytime you can get a little bit of health recovery, that's going to be incredibly helpful for you. You're also going to be using the Wind Tamer or any previous vessel you would like to use. This is just my personal preferred one in the middle of the game. And for our spirit, we are going to be using the Elder Armor Worm. I have a video if you want to know how to get this. I'll leave it down in the description below, but this is going to slightly increase critical hit chance when in a poisoned state, which we are going to be in. And the Elder Armor Worm is going to flail around, spreading poison around the battlefield. And if you are close enough to the boss, you'll do some physical damage and get that enemy in a poisoned state before you even start hitting him. For your armor, at least for the headpiece, you can wear whatever you want, but I am wearing the Centipede armor. And the reason we want to use this armor is because it's going to massively reduce the continuous damage received from a poisoned state. Even though we're going to be in a poisoned state, that doesn't mean we have to be losing a ton of damage really quickly, and this armor set is definitely going to help you out with that. I haven't leveled it up all the way yet, obviously, but for mid-game, you won't even have that option anyway. Now for our Curios, we are going to be using Curios that are going to increase our poison damage as well as increase poison damage on the enemy and decrease our poison damage taken. For our first Curios, we're using the Spine in the Sack, which is going to moderately increase our poison damage, which is excellent. For our second Curios, we're going to moderately increase our poison resistance, so our poison resistance is going to be up higher, allowing us to take less poison damage in our poison state. And for our third one, we have the legendary Celestial Birthstone Fragment. It's going to ignore the enemy's 4 Bane's resistance, so if anybody has resistance to poison damage, this will make sure that they don't. Now, as far as your gourd goes, you are going to be using whatever gourd you would like. I'm using the Supreme Gourd, but what's important is what actually goes into it. Now, within our drink is going to be the Death Stinger. This is going to inflict a poison state to the Destined One himself, which is great because that's actually going to spike all of our damage. Then I have 2 Gall Gems, which are going to moderately increase poison resistance, meaning even though we are in a poison state, we're not going to get nearly as much damage taken on us. And the last one is the Undying Vine, which is going to recover a great amount of stamina and increase stamina recovery rate, which is just something nice to have. But guys, there you have it. That is going to be it for the 3 Black Myth Wukong builds that I enjoyed going through the game with, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know if you want to see more of these type of videos in the future by liking the video and subscribing on your way out. I would appreciate that a ton. And guys, until next time, stay safe, enjoy the game, and I'll see you in the next one.